To forgive is not to forget. Let's take a deeper dive into this subject. Here with the detail, Ramon Phipps. Forgiveness is often seen as this conscious and deliberate effort for us as human beings to release ourselves of resentment and even vengeful feelings towards somebody who has harmed us. But forgiveness actually takes two forms. The simple way to look at it is, yes, forgiveness towards other people. But I almost feel like this is granting somebody else way too much control in your life. Control over our emotions, control over our mind. There are a lot of reasons why we keep resentment, why we keep hate, why we keep negative emotions and perspective towards an individual close to our heart. Pain is a very powerful emotion, and it stays with us if it's gone unacknowledged and unresolved. And if you had the choice, I'm sure that you wouldn't choose to hold on to pain. You wouldn't choose to hang on to resentment. You wouldn't choose to allow this negative anchor to continue weighing you down, because we can actually see what it creates in overall outcomes of our life. Let's just say that I had some issues with my father and I'm forever resentful towards him. Well guys, being a father is a hard task that I might not be able to empathize with until I'm actually there. Being a good human being is an incredibly difficult task. And I need to be able to see that as a human, I'm not always going to be reaching the best of my potential. And sometimes that might actually cause detriments to my other relationships and the way that I interact with people. Being a human can be a pretty crappy situation for some. And even that might be reason and justification alone for why we might have cultivated this poor perspective towards our relationship with somebody. But in hanging on to resentment and hanging on to my hate of the person that I dislike the most, when things in my environment trigger me, such as I have to think about my father on his birthday, I hate that. I hate him. Or I see a father and son playing together, I hate that. Or I'm talking about the possibility of being a parent one day and I just shut out the idea because I hate my father. Now, these things now become my warped mentality, all based on my emotional reasoning of hate and resentment. Now, again, there's so much reasons why we find it difficult to forgive people. And a lot of it has to do with us feeling powerless in saying that we have accepted what you've done to me. But again, along the spectrum of just forgiving other people, we got to remind ourselves that forgiveness, once more, is not about forgetting. It's never about that. Your body keeps score, but forgiveness is about releasing. If you don't want to hang on to a negative weight that somebody else has imposed onto your life, then why are you hanging on to it? Why are you allowing yourself to sink to the bottom of the ocean, thinking that you have every justification to hang on to your negative pain, when really and truly you're just making a very simple-minded and immature choice to hang on to negativity? It is a choice. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. Forgive me. But whatever the case may be, you have the power here. And this is where the second form of forgiveness comes in. Forgiving yourself. A lot of times we might be struggling with issues that have to do with a lack of self-worth, lack of self-love, lack of self-acceptance and respect. And we might have performed a lot of ill-intentioned actions based on this throughout the course of our life experience. And these things might have created a lot of problems for us in our current day living condition. Maybe you were a bad mother, so you no longer see your kids. Maybe you were a drug addict, so you messed up all areas of your life. Maybe you were somebody who had a lot of self-esteem concerns. And from there, your decisions and actions were based on this low self-esteem. You didn't want to do the whole school thing because you had low self-esteem. You didn't want to set standards in your relationship, so you found yourself in crappy relationships over and over and over again because you have low self-esteem. You didn't ever want to practice self-acceptance, so you did everything that you can to get away from your true self, such as merging with a particular friend group that helped redefine your identity, caking yourself up with makeup or a whole bunch of piercings and tattoos to look completely different. But a lot of these things in themselves are just an escape away from something that's gone unresolved. And sometimes we got to challenge ourselves to forgive ourselves for what we've done. There's this parts work in therapeutic approaches called inner child work, where we allow ourselves to offer a little bit more compassion to that misunderstood child, or the way that I like to refer to it, the immature mind. The immature mind is one that always sits with us the same way that that child sits with us deep within our heart and deep within our memory. And oftentimes we just grow up without ever giving it a sense of acknowledgement. But again, our behaviors are hugely influenced from all of these pains, discomforts, and insecurities. And until we acknowledge them, then we never, ever allow ourselves to overcome them. Because that child is yelling, screaming, whining, and crying for a little bit of attention. And sometimes we need to take accountability for not giving them that. Yes, you felt hurt and pain in the past. Yes, you might have allowed yourself to be taken advantage of. Yes, you might have chosen bad choices that led to problems that you're now dealing with today. Yes, you can forgive yourself for these things. Heck, even if you found yourself in an abusive relationship, it wasn't your fault that somebody chose to be abusive towards you, but we must take accountability for not making the decision to leave that relationship. And again, there's 1,001 reasons why somebody wouldn't leave an abusive relationship, leave a crappy job, stand up for themselves when they know that they were not treated right and they had their needs trampled on, or their own sense of self-worth trampled on by other people. Like, I get it. Like, sometimes we find ourselves in these positions and we think what we would have done differently, knowing what we know now. Sometimes we have to allow some forgiveness to ease those resentments, ease that resistance, ease those discomforts that we may have towards our past experiences. Because you see, the issue with us not practicing forgiveness, whether towards somebody else or ourselves, is that all those pains of yesterday still exist today, and they will exist in the future. Worse, they start to become projected onto the world around us. So we start to hate, we start to have animosity, we start to allow our resentments to actually become our worldview here and now. And guys, you don't deserve that. You deserve to allow yourself to be free, to be optimistic towards the future, to allow yourself to not be driven by hate and pain, to allow yourself to be driven from a position of willingness and acceptance as to who you are and what you've been through. But if we're not ready to forgive at this moment in our life, then ask yourself why. And ask yourself the question, would life be better if I were to forgive? Not forget, but forgive. Forgiveness is, again, not us choosing to just push something to the recess of our mind and never think about it again. It's us choosing to take back control of how we were negatively affected from something that we may have been responsible for or may not have been responsible for. Either way, we empower ourselves with our sense of control right here and right now. And if I'm choosing to say that my hate no longer serves me, then I have all the control that I need in the world. Imagine what that can do for you the next time you encounter another problematic scenario, situation, or relationship. To know that no one controls you but you. Stay mindful.